This podcast is a part of the More Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Daily Leader Podcast by Pattern Talent, where we interview great leaders and we seek to understand leadership. I'm Brad McDonald.
And I'm Taylor Jessup, and we really hope that you enjoy this episode. I don't think you know how to start a podcast, Brad.
Taylor, I'm doing the welcome and the intro this time, per our plan. And I would like to welcome all of our listeners and invite them to subscribe, because if you subscribe, then that helps grow the channel. It helps you get this content delivered right to your homepage. And it helps Taylor eventually someday buy that yacht that he's been dreaming of for so long.
It's big. It's a big yacht.
It's a little dinghy. Just like in Tommy Boy.
Yes, sir.
So today is a fun episode. We're going to switch things up a little bit, and we are going to highlight your coaching business, Bar Coaching.
Yeah.
And you have some inkling of where we're headed, but you don't have all the context. I like to kind of keep you in the dark here. And so this is going to be a lot of fun for me and our listeners. But before we do that, I also want to remind people to join the Daily Leader community. So we're in beta version right now and having a lot of fun kind of working in the background, getting all that up and going. So check that out, link in the show notes. If you're looking for a tribe of people to journey through leadership with, to grow with, for accountability and encouragement, then the Daily Leader community is for you. And it's going to be a lot of fun. Any final last word before we kick this thing off, Taylor?
I think that was pretty good, Brad. I think that was pretty good. Yeah, I mean, even if you're not looking for that tribe, you don't know what you're not looking for. So, try it anyways. Yeah, you never know. If you're like, nah, that doesn't seem right, that's probably a good place to go then,
I love it. Let's warm you up. We got to warm you up before we get in here. I've got something unique in store. How about this? When you're working out, all right, what do you listen to? What gets you jacked for your CrossFit regimen?
Man, that's a tough question because I bounce back and forth. Sometimes I've been doing podcasts recently. I listen to a good podcast actually while I'm working out. Yeah, I did like a 2090 punk rock playlist most recently.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah,
Who was featured on that? Who are some of the artists?
Blink 182 came up. Sum 41, if you remember a little Sum 41.
Yeah. Fat Lip.
Yeah, who else was in there? There was a lot, and then there were some confusing ones that I was like, I don't feel like that feels right. I think maybe there was some Yellow Card on there, if I remember correctly.
Pop punk, little heavy on the pop side, but
sure, yeah, but
we got some good jams.
Yeah, I just thought, well, so that was pretty good, but I don't know, man. I bounce around a lot. That's a long answer. I bounce around a lot. Different genres, all kinds of stuff.
Good. I like it. Okay. How about this? Most embarrassing moment of high school sports. You're a high school athlete, high school quarterback on the football team.
All right. I gotcha. Yeah, I was a high school quarterback on the football team. And senior year, we went for our first away game, which was the first game of the year. And I was stoked, I'd been a wide receiver the couple years before that, starting in backup quarterback. And then I was starting quarterback. When I was starting quarterback, I was so excited. Get on the bus. We're driving over to go play. I can't even remember the name of the high school. It doesn't matter for the story. But we get there. I'm pumped. We're getting off the bus. And I forgot one thing. My helmet, which makes it hard to play football without a helmet. And the school is not close to the school we just left. So intern had to look at one of the underclassmen and say, hey, you, give me your helmet. So I wore a helmet that was not mine that day, and he didn't have one, which ended up being more embarrassing for him during warm-ups and stuff that I would. But yeah, Yeah, then
love
I
it.
got hit. I actually still have a scar. The helmet did not fit very well, so I should have had some pretty good stitches, but one of the first rushing plays of the game, going, get pop, helmet doesn't quite fit, comes up, blood everywhere. So, yeah, it was a good time, you know, just
Did you
just
finish that
forgot my
game?
helmet.
Or
Oh,
were you
yeah.
just
Yeah, yeah.
gushing
No.
everywhere? Okay, good. So it
Nah, concussions weren't really a
wasn't that
thing at that point. You just keep playing.
bad. Okay, professionally, let's keep with this theme of embarrassing.
Oh, good.
Professionally, most embarrassing moment so far.
Professionally most embarrassing. Well, I'm gonna blame this on our good friend Ryan Noterman. There are probably lots of examples, but this is the first one that comes to mind. We all worked Chick-fil-A together at a very, large restaurant out here in Phoenix, and Ryan tells me, "Hey, outside," he's running the shift that day. "There's a man sitting over by our shed, and it's 7 in the morning. Would you go ask him to move? He can't sit on the property. We're liable." He goes,
Oh,
"Here's a cup
no.
of coffee." And I said, "Ryan, okay, I don't like this task, but I will go do it." I walk out there and I'm offering him a cup of coffee and telling him he has to move. At which time I realized he did not have legs and was in a wheelchair. So I asked him if he wanted some help, to which he declined, acquiesced to my request. He said no. And he got his chair eventually and rolled off, and I walked away super embarrassed, which is almost another time where, I went out in the rain and had to ask somebody that was soliciting to all of our, guests in line to not do that and refer him to a food bank and said, "Hey, I can take you anywhere you want to go," thinking I would push him somewhere else that's undercover. And I pushed him all the way out to the corner of the road where he asked me in the rain, to which a good Samaritan came up running with some Chick-fil-A, which we had our policy not to give, and I looked like the jerk. So, multiple
Ugh,
times at Chick-fil-A, those
yeah,
kind of
those are hard.
situations.
Those are hard
Yeah, this
scenarios.
nobody
Absolutely.
has the context. So everybody that's
Right.
watching just
Yeah,
understands, A, you're not giving them food, B, you don't seem to really be helping them, and C, it just seems mean, like, all of it's bad,
right.
Like, it's not fun for me either, to be honest.
Right.
So,
Yeah, without realizing that happens, like, 10 times a day, literally,
mhm, mhm,
depending on your, yeah, so it's yeah, what's sustainable, what's right, what's safe for the employees, what's safe for the other customers. There's all these crazy sort of calculations that go into those situations, but they're
sure.
all right, so let's talk about coaching, okay? I think that you're an excellent coach. I've gotten to see some of the benefits of that in your client work. I've gotten to see some of the benefits of that when we work together in the restaurant business. And so I think like you and executive coaching is a match made in heaven. Um, but I'm curious how you would frame this up. I've never asked you this before. I've actually never asked you any of these questions before, which is awesome. Um, but share with me and our listeners how you feel like your professional background and kind of like work life leading up to this point has equipped you to really help guide people through executive coaching.
Mm, it's a good question. Yeah, I mean, I've kind of been all over the place career-wise, and I say that as a strength, not as a weakness. I think a lot of people would say, "Well, geez, you're not in IT for the last, 30 years." I'm like, "No, I'm not." I was a pastor for a number of years. I did missions work for a bit there. Ran an auction company, was an auctioneer, did the whole big calling, fast talking, but also getting sales, doing those kind of things. I've done restaurant with you, quick service stuff at Chick-fil-A. In the meantime, after that, went into real estate and now doing, technology and coaching. And in the real estate sphere, I've been able to work with a lot of presidents, CEOs, COOs, you name it. So all of that is an aspect. I mean, that's the professional career path. And I think the diversity in that has been really helpful. A, because I work with a lot of entrepreneurs that are doing 6 billion things. And I'm like, oh, I can relate to that just in terms of the um, different dynamics of my career. But I think that there's also, the interesting twist that you and you know about my story is, I'm in recovery. I got there. I actually went through, I got a divorce in 2018, 2019, and beginning of 2019 there. And along that road, I got into recovery. Uh, I, got caught in lies, all kinds of stuff that I wasn't comfortable about my sexuality, and dealing with that. We'll call it, which whatever you call it, sexual integrity of, hey, I made some poor choices in this part of my life, and now I'm gonna have to come face to face with that. And the best part of that, honestly, was it was a chance to slow down, get honest and current and real about what's really going on. Not what I want everybody to see, but what was going on underneath. And then where do I want to go? Um, and to me, there's a couple things. I always tell my clients like, hey, your team will never exceed its leader. And that's holistically, like as a person, who you are, all the facets. Like your team cannot do it. That's why a leader is there. It's why we get kind of mad and people say, well, I just vote for Trump's, cabinet or whatever. Like, fine, but your vote won't exceed the leader that's at the top. A football team cannot exceed the head coach. When we never said, "Hey, that team won in spite of their coach." That's not a line that we use out there. So for me, that experience actually, and what I went through, and a lot of counseling, coaching, wrestling, anxiety, loss of relationship actually enlightened me to a lot of different things. And I say enlightened, and I hate that phrase. But what it did is it opened up my perspective. It went from small to big. It went from this is the way things are to maybe this is just the way that I view things. This is my current view of the world and the way that I relate. So it really changed the way I relate to people, how I see them, and understanding that what you and I get is this. And then the level and extent to which you let me in is the level and extent to which I can actually partner with you. So for my clients, it doesn't mean that, hey, we're going to go through necessarily all your deepest, darkest secrets. That's kind of up to you. What it means is I'm going to give you the opportunity to be courageous in the things that you may not want to tell your team, the things that you may not feel comfortable with. Uh, you can bring those here, and you're safe. And actually, when we start to get rid of some of those things that we fear, it's amazing what we can actually pick up when we start setting down the fear and start picking up the possibilities for the future. So I don't know if that answered directly,
That
hey, how
I
how
love
my
it.
my life has been, but kind of career wise, that's it. It's a plethora of experiences that I really like personally. It is, me being in recovery, what that world has taught me, what it has taught me in terms of sitting and being with people, what it has taught me in terms of what's going on internally and how that affects um, all the things that we see in the public eye. So
So you answered my second question too, which I love. That was fantastic. Moving on then, why executive coaching? So in light of your previous experience, you know, pastoring people, some a variety of business experiences, working through recovery, therapy, counseling, coaching, um, group therapy, all kinds of interesting things that you've applied yourself to, and tools that you've availed yourself to grow, change, and develop the way that you feel, think, and behave. Um, why not, be a pastor, be a teacher, be an athletics coach? Why not go do counseling? You could have chosen so many ways to get at this sort of question, which is helping other people grow.
yeah.
What made you take this route?
Um, Men and women at the top don't often have anywhere to go, or they don't feel like they do. So you see this a lot, I think, in the church world, but I think it's true in the executive world. And I hope both. So I can do both at the same time, which is great. Is that when we're at the top, right? Everybody else, you have somebody potentially above you to be able to go to. You have resources that you may be able to access. And I often perceive that a lot of leaders at the top, there are two things. One, they may or may not feel like they have anybody to go to, or they feel like they should know the answers. And B, there's just a lot of pressure there. And where there's pressure, there's something going on underneath, typically. There's a way that we code, there's a way that we handle it, there's a way that we do whatever. So um, I like to come into high pressure situations and help people um, explore the idea that maybe the problem that you're encountering isn't really the problem. Or it is, but you need a different perspective on that. So I love partnering with people that honestly feel a bit stuck. They feel like they don't know where to go. And I have experienced that with a lot of entrepreneurs, with a lot of managers, with a lot of people running companies where they feel like, hey, I don't know that I have anywhere to go with it. This is true in the church world too. There are a lot of pastors out there. If there's any pastors listening to this, I love that. I love to partner, come alongside and go, hey, that feeling that you're feeling is real. And what can we do as a result of it? Um, Number two, I just think it's fun. I really do. It's fun to see people say, I have a vision. And if we need to get clear on that vision, let's get clear. And then let's go after that vision and make it happen. And how can we do that? The last thing I'll say is I like Jesus. That's the thing. And I was a pastor for years and I was a missionary. And truthfully, when I switched into more of the public sector, and especially probably at Chick-fil-A at the restaurant, I did more ministry and business than I ever did in ministry.
Explain that.
Man, the church, I think often people are going to hate that I say this. I think the church is a lot of times a roadblock to people's faith more than it is an encourager of it. I think that it doesn't always, I will say it doesn't always do two things: encourage those who are on the outside to come in, and two, encourage those on the inside to be honest and flourish. And I've actually found more in the professional sphere that when people open up, they can actually do both of those things sometimes better than they would in the church. It may be pretty controversial. Some people will be like, that's not true. And I say that probably isn't true in all circumstances. But for me, in my experience, um, when somebody is paying me to be their spiritual guide, that's one thing. Even if they don't perceive that they're paying me, it's a different thing when I show up for that person and they're paying me for business results and we get to have a conversation about other parts of their life. And then they get curious as to why I even care and what that's like. So, anyways, I had more, I feel like, great conversations that made an impact in business for people, for the kingdom, than I did potentially when I was, a youth pastor and being a missionary and all those things. So,
That's fascinating. Um, I think that there are a lot of people who have transitioned in and out of work in churches and other faith-based ministry, nonprofit environments, let's say, and would agree with what you said. And I think that there are probably a lot of people who are steeped in a faith-based context, and they wouldn't even know where to begin with what you just said. They wouldn't even know how to think about it or process it, right?
sure.
Um,
It's just a
you and
good
I
conversation,
Oh, it's
you know?
great. It's really important to think about how, uh, the context we're in, like the actual legal structure or the relationship structure or, the structure around the assumptions that we make when we come into the environment, right? They change the way that we engage in whatever the process may be. So I love where you're headed there, and I love that that has played a factor in you moving into, the career that you're in now. So I'm curious, when you think about your work and you just reflect, what parts of the coaching process resonate with you the most? Not as much like what topic, right? Because you've already answered that question pretty well. But like, what part of the process for you of taking someone from I'm not a client to I was a client and now I'm kind of spread my wings and I'm flying. I don't need to be Taylor's client anymore. I don't have that felt need. Where would you say in that process of start to finish you feel the most joy and fulfillment?
For me, it goes back to, so I was a lacrosse coach in Colorado for a while. For me, it's when that person sees the excitement that I saw in them all along and it's unleashed. Like, I used to show up at our lacrosse practice. I'm out in high school, and I would say, "Hey, boys, we're gonna have a day." I don't even know what that meant. I just started saying it, and I could see the potential in all these kids. And I'm just, "Hey, we're gonna have a day," and they said, "We're gonna have a day, coach." And you watch them kind of start to light up the way that I wish they would have been without me being there. And when somebody can transition from needing the coach to go, "Hey, we're gonna have a day," to showing up and going, "I'm gonna have a day," that part of the process for me is where I get excited. That's where I'm like, oh, heck yes. Like, yes, the potential that I saw in you is now realized, and it's not just realized, it's being acted upon, and you are living that. And you may need somebody on occasion to speak in and remind you, but I just think, man, life is hard enough. We all need an encourager. And when you become your own encourager because you believe the things that other people believe in you, all of a sudden stuff opens up. I just saw this Instagram video. I thought it was great. He said, "You will never make more than you believe you're worth. You will never in your life make more money. You will never in your life have better opportunities than you believe that you're worth." And I was like, man, I kind of like that. So when people start to believe the worth and the value that I am talking to them about or trying to extract out of them, that's the part of the process for me.
If you could summarize how your coaching helps transform people's lives in like a sentence.
Mm,
I mean, you've shared a lot. I feel like you put a lot of dots on the board.
sure.
I'm asking you to kind of connect some of those and summarize them into something that feels succinct for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. If I had to do it in like, you give me one sentence,
Yeah, like take 28 words.
that's very specific, Bradley. I think realize your full potential, living into the future that you've always wanted for yourself.
I like it. Realize your full potential, living into the future you've always wanted for yourself.
Yeah,
So
if you're gonna
that's
ask
what
how,
you
that's a
help
different
people
question.
do.
Yeah,
Okay, okay.
yeah,
Well, yeah. So tell me a little bit about how, because
yeah.
we're going there anyway.
Yeah, sure. The how is, okay, I've got to understand where I'm currently at. Like, what is the result? If you want to talk, this is the same in the 12 steps, right? Hey, admit I am where I'm at. Admit that I messed up, that they would say that you're powerless. And then you could have the argument about what does powerless mean? And then we got to take the inventory of like all the things that have happened. What is going on, right? Before we can even move forward. So I got to get real about my current state. Not the state that I think that I'm in, but the state that I'm actually in with myself, my company. So personally and professionally. Once we get really clear on that, then we want to get clear on the vision. Where am I actually going? Oftentimes, we may have an idea of where we're going, but typically, what I find with even really good leaders is we have a broad stroke idea, but we don't have a pinpoint idea. We don't have that I'm working towards. Um, we brought on Elizabeth Dixon a while ago. She talked about purpose, right? And the importance of finding your purpose. So the how is get current with your current reality, really where you are, and then get really clear on your future and where you're going. From there, we can, you can roadmap it out, but you will be surprised by doing those two things, how the roadmap actually starts to take care of itself. Because once you're actually clear on that future, you are locked into that's where I want to go, you will start to make it happen for yourself. You can see this in addicts' brains. It's like a normal human brain. It's a little bit more addicted, but, once the idea comes in, okay, I need that drink of alcohol, the brain literally starts to get to work on that, without even the cognitive in the front of the brain thoughts. In other words, subconsciously, you're starting to work towards it. So, a big part of it is that. It is, "Hey, get current reality," and that can be a dig. That can be a dig because the current reality may be, I put on the front that I'm good, but really I'm not. And we gotta be able to own that. Like, I put on for my team that maybe I need to be more vulnerable, maybe I need, like we gotta figure out what's really going on, and that can be some good work. It can be heavy. Uh, same in the business, what's actually happening, and then where we really going. So, that's kinda the how.
It's interesting. Do you think that you're focused as a coach on the life and the personal side or the business side? Like how throw that in a paradox. Life or business. Where are you at? What
Yeah, I don't think that there's people think that there's a distinction, I don't think that there is.
yeah,
I think
unpack
they
that.
we'd love to say, "Hey, well, this is my professional side," and so we don't talk about personal stuff.
It's so funny because I feel like you and I see this differently. I'm like, "Hey, don't bring me your life stuff. I can't. Like I don't have space for that." You're like, "Hey, bring me your life stuff. Uh I can't not help you with that." Like, isn't that
Well,
do you
yeah,
hear that same difference
yeah, I
between you
mean,
and I?
yeah, totally. I mean, for me, for most, it's not, hey, you have to bring me any of that. It's, I think if we're really doing the work, you will talk about that because
Yep. Yep.
the
That's
old
good.
fallacy that my personal life does not affect my professional life is not true. Like,
And
it may even
how do you know that? Because I think this is, like, sort of a generational revelation, right?
sure.
Over the last, like, 20, 30 years of modern work, white collar computer,
Yeah.
like, whatever's the society we've created, like, it has become very, very evident that what you just said is factual.
Yeah. Because you're human. That's how I know that. And what I mean, this isn't to take shots at other people, is we used to say, and there's some truth in it, right? Like, okay, great. Well, leave that personal stuff at the door and come and show up and do your work. And there is some truth for that. There is a safe haven, or I had a mentor once say, there's different places in life that are sanctuaries. So sometimes your home is a sanctuary, it feels a little safer. Sometimes maybe work is a sanctuary. By sanctuary, I just mean safe place for you to feel, come and get revived. And, maybe sometimes that's the actual sanctuary if you're a spiritual person. But if the thought is part of my day does not affect another part of my day, um, part of what's happening at home with my spouse is not affecting my workplace. It's not the way humans work. Even if we shut it out entirely, the amount of work it takes for me to shut it out entirely, and some people go, well, I compartmentalize really well. I go, okay, only if you're coming back and processing it and figuring that out. Otherwise, that leads to addiction, that leads to acting out, that leads to coping. All of those things um, take away capacity to do something else well. Or let's say it's this way. Maybe I shut this down at home and I go live my professional life. And I'm like, man, I shut that down so I can run really hard over here. I will burn out. Like, if these aren't succinct, I will eventually burn out. Something is not right. It's like having a car and saying, you know what? I don't need the tires to work really well, right? Because the engine does. It's not the
Yeah.
best
It's like,
example ever.
"Oh." No,
Yeah,
it's good. It's actually I
but
like it a lot.
it's the holistic picture of a person. So my thought would be, if you were, let's put it this way, if you were operating at this capacity now, and you're like, yeah, I got, and this is not to fix all the problems at home, right? You're not coming to me so that we go, well, let's fix it. But it is like, how do we explore that? How do we think about it? How do we allow that not to give us a drag down or whatever you're working on? I would say, hey, think about it this way. What if the level and extent to which you could work is hindered by your capacity to deal with the other issues that you don't want to deal with? Like, what if it's, yeah, you're doing fine, but your fine is 70%. So that means you got 30% untapped potential. It doesn't mean that you have to work out all the problems with your wife, but how you relate to all the problems with your wife or with your husband or with your, significant other. Like, that might actually start to give you more capacity back into your day. But it's definitely not true logic to say if I leave these two separate and they never touch each other, that they won't affect each other. So
What if someone's not an executive in the C-suite? Are they still a fit?
for me, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Look, I work with anybody that wants to be a leader, lead themselves and lead their team. So if you are wanting to be a leader, that's great, and you're saying, hey, it's Chance. Chance came
Here
on the
come
show. Yeah.
red
And
line.
he talked about this idea. Now, he was a CEO, but I thought that the point was great. I mean, what a stellar dude.
Just can we just have a moment of silence for his muscles? That dude is just a specimen.
Brad, you asked for a moment of silence and then you talked.
Okay. That's it. That's enough.
Chance's muscles. But Chance said it. He goes, I realized I wasn't a very good leader. And so I went and
Yeah.
figured that out.
Yeah, this is such an awesome moment. Yes.
That anybody that has that humility to go, you know what? That's where I want to go. Like, where I'm at currently is not where I want to be. Now, we talked about that paradox at the beginning, which we didn't talk about all that much, of the peace that you can have by having peace with where you're at, and the paradox of also aspiring for a future. That's for another podcast that we can talk about the paradox that is. But yeah, anybody that wants to do that, if you're like, man, I want to be an aspiring young entrepreneur. I haven't started my business yet. I want to just lead, myself better in my career. I want to lead my church better. I want to lead my ministry in a different way. Yes, the answer is yes.
Do you have a set curriculum that you want like everybody goes through?
I do
Or is
not.
it sort
Yeah,
of
no.
tailored? Okay. And why is that?
Yeah,
Tell
because
me about that decision.
everybody's different. I think especially in coaching, there's not one suit fits all, right? So it's less of a curriculum base. It's principles driven for sure. The principles, of being honest and courageous with where I'm really at. The idea of the future, like the idea that, hey, what I currently have now is actually what I've wanted for myself. It is the future that I saw myself having, and so I have it. We've talked about this with Adrian and Chad and a bunch of people. So if that is true, then I can recreate my own future and how I would do that and how I think about that, what I need
Yeah.
to get there.
Adrian said, everything is perfect. His philosophy is that, or his conviction is that everything is perfect.
Yep.
Uh, perfectly aligned with what you did and
Yeah,
the behaviors and the thoughts and the feelings that you engaged in, the way you
that's right.
indulge your memory, like all, yeah,
That's right.
that's
Yeah, man.
a really
It's
great
so good.
perspective to take to a client, especially
Yeah.
one who's stuck, especially one who's colluding with dysfunctional relationships, one who's engaging in some victim mentality and sort of blame placing their lifestyle and situation on others.
Yep. Yep.
I
100%.
love to blame my extra weight that I carry on my kids because I can't let them waste their food. I need to finish it for them when they don't.
Sure.
Right. So
Sure. Yeah.
that's
No, that's good.
problematic.
Yeah. We all need somebody to blame, Brad. That's
I'd love to, you've been much more long-winded than I expected, I will say that.
wow.
Um, so what I'd love to do now, and I know you're not planning on this, but I would love for you to just give a little bit of a plug for a couple of the things that you're up to right now. So I'm thinking Imposters Anonymous, I'm thinking the movement, and
Sure.
maybe lastly, just if somebody wants to engage, somebody wants to get coaching and go through your process, give us the how-tos and the mechanics of that.
Yeah, the skinny. Yeah. Well, what are we up to at Bar Coaching? We do have a couple different things that you can get plugged in with right away. Imposters Anonymous is a group of people that may struggle with the feeling that, hey, I don't belong, or I'm out of place, or I'm going to be found out, and that's actually a really good place to be. And so, as counterintuitive as that may feel, so we offer a space about once a month, last Thursday of the month. It's going to go to 2 Thursdays, second and the last Thursday of the month moving forward. You can join our circle community there and get a part of that. We also have the movement. Brad knows the movement, which is just, hey, some people getting together, tracking whatever they're going to do to get results, try and get, buys and tries and, whatever. It's supposed to be sit-ups this month too,
Booty.
but
I'm working on the
some
booty,
people, there we
personally.
go.
For
Yeah.
me, it's
Well,
all glutes.
that's good. Both of those groups are community and accountability. That's all they are. And oftentimes we can find that a lot of our problems will dissipate with community and accountability. So the other things that we are up to that we're building out. So we're doing a camp CEO this year, which is going to be for CEOs and a few of their leaders to come in and do what we just talked about. Get clear on current reality of their team, of their communication, of their problems with communication, of what's working, what's wanted and needed for the company, and then where are we going and how do we do that and to really come back united. And that is going to be the summer coming up. We'll go to Colorado. It's going to be a great time for people. And then there's also one-on-one coaching, which is a couple sessions with me a month, and we work through a number of different things. Like I said, it's not necessarily curriculum driven because it's specific to each client, but it is principle driven. So those are 3 to 6 months typically in terms of engagement, and oftentimes longer. And we also offer offsite. So we'll do offsite training if you're interested in that and you're looking to jumpstart your team. We'll do offsites where we kind of get together with your team for a couple days, can put you through um, having your team take some different assessments to kind of help place that, bring in a number of people to get real clear on the vision and ask what could be possible for us this year. What could be possible if we were all honest, aligned, and working in the same direction. So those are a number of the things that we offer at Bara Coaching. Yeah. How's that, Brad? Does that land? Is that good for you?
I love it. That was perfect. Yeah, wouldn't have changed a thing. I know that you're really good at this because I've kind of walked through it with several of your clients who I have a personal relationship with and have seen you do it as a manager in a company, director in a company. And so I'm really, really excited that you're up to this and I'm excited for your clients and the people that you're helping. Um, any maybe last thing that you would share with our audience as an encouragement for why they should engage in coaching, even if it's not with you, just
Mm,
why is the process critical for their development and why do we believe in it so deeply?
sure.
I'll give you the final
Uh,
word here, brother.
yeah. Final word. Two things, community and accountability. If you want to grow, we need community, we need accountability. The life is not meant to be done alone. So we look at the aspects of life that we actually care about. And oftentimes we would go get a coach. So if you want to lose weight, oftentimes you're going to go get a coach. If you want to get in shape for a marathon, get a coach. If you look at professional athlete, get a coach. So I think often, for some reason, up until recently, the world has not been big on business executive coaches, even coaches in the nonprofit world. And I think there's some resistance there, right? To, hey, I don't need this because it hurts my bottom line. And I would say, well, what would be possible if you had somebody in your corner that was shoulder to shoulder with you, that believed and wanted the best for you, that wasn't afraid to challenge and encourage you, that really just saw you for you and who you are, right? And they wanted the same results that you are. Like, what might be possible if you had that person along with you in your career? So, could it, rather than an expense, could it be an opportunity? Like an opportunity to do all the things that you've hoped of doing, and really you're closer than you think, but you might need an advocate, like a fierce advocate in your corner to be able to do that. So that's what I'd say. Doesn't matter if it's me. I'd say wherever you are in your career, whatever you're doing, if you are a pastor, if you are running a nonprofit, if you are in the professional work environment and you're the CEO, or you're just getting started with your career, um, what if you didn't have the money not to do it?
I love it. Friends, thank you for joining us this week on the Daily Leader podcast. We love you guys and we're grateful for you. And you will have all of the information you need to engage with Taylor in the show notes for any future episodes. Make sure you subscribe, like, share, comment, and remember that leadership is worth it. It's worth the work you're doing. It's worth the sacrifices you're making. And we love you.